Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be back this week. And, well, of course, the draft is upon us, and you already know what time it is for all of us to get in our necessary mock preparations. What is up, Bird brothers and sisters? Lindy End Zone is in for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles, one video at a time. And yes, of course, well, I'm kind of decked out in Mavericks gear right now, and I'm kind of misrepresenting on what the video is about and, reintroducing the old intro that I had. But of course, it's playoff time in the NBA, and I got to support my Mavs anyway. Go MFFLs, and let's hope that we can get this first round done and over with like the previous two demon years against the Clippers, where Luka just had almost next to no help. And I know that the narrative has changed with his injury and him coming back for Game 4, and it just wasn't enough, sadly, and that's a topic for another day. But in any event, this is a different kind of video that I'm not going to really try and drag on here. But of course, as you can see in the title for the thumbnail, this is a mock fueled by Philly the podcast, and shout out to Joe Castro for me being one of the nominated individuals to make a mock for him, to be displayed on Twitter. But I thought, I'd be a little bit different in my approach and make a video about it instead, and kind of bring people in the direction as to the selections that I made, based on the changing mock with players ascending or descending in the list of of where the predictions are of they might go, and to give you guys a little bit of a background on why I made the selections. So without further ado, let's get some of this started here as I open it up. And it seems a little bit pixelated and a little bit blurry on my part, but I hope that's not going to be the case for when you guys do view this on the video. But let's get into it here. And as we know, the Eagles have executed some of their top 30 visits, and while I was able to get at least 3 of those top 30 visits on this list, some of them aren't. Some of them they didn't use a top 30 visit on, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you have to take best player available, or aside from best player available, you're trying to do at least one of two things. Not only are you going BPA, but the other thing that you have to consider is if select player fits what we're trying to do on the offensive or defensive side of the football. So at 15, one of the top 30 visits was still available in Devonta Wyatt, and I think we all know by this time what he brings to the table as as such an explosive specimen to his position. You already know that the Eagles, they love their players with versatility. Devonta is one of those guys that provides that. He can be inside. He can play the edge. He's very good against the run. He provides pressure in almost an instant with an explosive first step. And, he could be one of those. He has the potential to be one of those successors to Fletcher Cox after his departure, with us recognizing that, it's just a year deal that Fletch was given. So while Devonta Wyatt was there available at the first pick, I selected him there. 18, 18 could bring on some conversation because I do know that there's a lot. That this one is a mixed bag with Chris Olave, and and while I understand the concerns, um, the positives to this is, as some have watched that duo at the Ohio State between Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, you have to imagine that this could be another deadly pairing between Chris and our Heisman winner of last year in Devonta Smith, who had a fantastic rookie season with all things considered. You have to imagine that Chris Olave would benefit as much from Devontae and vice versa in this situation. With him being another technical route runner, one of the biggest things to Chris's game, as well as our boy in Devontae Smith. Those two paired together, it could be a deadly combination, as people think it would be with Jamison Williams or a Treylon Burks or George Pickens in the second round. There's a lot of options for the Eagles to take, and and of course, again, going off the context here of the Eagles using a top 30 visit on Chris Olave, I had to add a little bit of realism to this mock in understanding that the Eagles are giving us a blueprint to work with for the time being until we find out what they actually do come draft night. And, that's for us to wait and find out and make our predictions as such. So Chris was the selection at 18. 51, I went BPA here based on how the board fell. I do and I don't see the Eagles taking a safety here at 51 in the second round just because of their history. I think it's been at least 20 years that the Eagles have used a second rounder or better on a safety. But I think this is a year where they need to make that change. The depth at that position is, it's bad to put it lightly. It's bad. They bring back Anthony Harris just for the recognition of what Jonathan Gannon wants to do. You have an ascending player who they say in Marcus Epps, and there really isn't a whole lot behind that. So if you add a guy like Jalen Petre to that room, and what was a good Baylor defense to where he just had a ton of capable versatility for what he was asked to do. Very good. Very good in terms of where he was placed on the field. He was seen at both safety positions. He was seen at inside, outside linebacker. I mean, the list, that it's such a crazy list to look at the versatility that Jalen Petre has had in that Baylor defense. Very good at sniffing out the run when there was help needed at that point in time. Very good going across the field in terms of chasing down his man. So in terms of BPA, Jalen Petre was the selection of 51. And it kind of went the same way for 83 with Channing Tindall. This is a player that I've selected in some previous mocks to where he was still available at 83 at this selection here in the third. He was now. I think for Channing, he would be a great addition to that linebacker room, especially for what we're asking Hassan Reddick to do. And if Hassan is going to be, if he's going to be that situational, type of pass rusher, Channing has that capability with him as well. He also has versatility to play inside and outside. So when you're looking at a positivity in the growth of Nick Rallis as a linebackers coach, when you add a guy like Channing in the third, that gives him a lot more to work with, especially in a core that, there's not a whole lot of promise right now when you take into account the depth that's there, or maybe sometimes the lack thereof with the scheme that Jonathan Gannon is trying to do. A guy like Channing could very well add to that depth, and we hope guys come back healthy from injury. Players that that are missing off the top of my head that I can't think of their names at the moment, but we know who I'm talking about. Man, it's bothering me that I can't think of his name at the moment, but nonetheless, I think Channing Tindall would be a great selection at 83, with all things considered. Same thing goes for 101. Now, I don't think this is too early, and I don't think this is too late for a running back selection in Brian Robinson Jr. He is that situational type of back as well. In terms of short yardage situations, he has a nice frame to him. I think he comes in at about 6'1", 225, 226, somewhere around there. If the Eagles are going to move on from a Miles Sanders and they're hoping for a big year 2 out of Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott still remains on the roster. This could, Brian Robinson has already been used to that backup role in a very crowded running back room with guys like Najee Harris back there, Josh Jacobs at one point. So he's already used to that kind of situation. And while we're hoping for some rebound in Miles Sanders and with him trying to stay healthy and play more than 10 to 12 games a season, and as I was just talking about with Kenny Gainwell, Robinson adds that little, that punch that we were missing at times from Jordan Howard. And while Brian Robinson Jr. is not exactly of a similar size to Jordan, he has youth on his side, and in an offense that, as we seen last year, loves to run the football when they need to, especially behind this offensive line. You have to imagine like a guy like Brian Robinson could very well take advantage of the situation that he could come into for Philly. So, being that we have had some prior success so far in taking out of the Bama pool, Brian Robinson could very well be another positive choice, especially in the third. And then 124 on, they are, I don't want to say they're toss-ups, but they're realistic fillers to me as to what I feel the Eagles would eventually do at these positions. Yes, I did go late with an edge. Some people aren't going to like that, but when you're talking about positional versatility with Devonta Wyatt, and you got the scheme with Gannon, what he's trying to run. Channing Tindall can do the same thing. We're already talking about Hassan Reddick, Teron Jackson, guys like that. You just want to build on what you currently have until you need to cull the herd a little bit and wean the weaknesses out. And if that's going to be a guy like Derek Barnett, then so be it. Who can easily be cut without penalty after this year. So this D'Angelo Malone was another top 30 visit to where I think he makes sense at 124. Just provides extra depth to that room where he can line up. He can line up as a outside backer or put him at edge. He's a little undersized, but I think that's something the Eagles can work with, and they believe so too after using a top 30 visit on him. 154 on, again, these are filler selections to positions of need, and who I feel best fits what the Eagles are looking for. Offensive linemen, their offensive linemen are, I don't want to say they're easy to pick, but a lot of it a lot of it just has to do with Jeff Stoutland and the magic he's been able to make with the players that he's been given. Rasheed Walker is a good size who has primarily played right tackle for the Nittany Lions the last 3 years. He has some things to clean up, but it's nothing that Jeff Stoutland can't work with outside of, well, the lack of versatility in Andre Dillard. But, Rasheed does offer that potential for versatility. And, depending on what would eventually happen with Jack Driscoll, if he has some injury issues with being able to stay on the field, and where he is thrown in this mix, right tackle, right guard, what have you. A guy like Rasheed could very well be a great depth piece in terms of development, and if he's needed in a pinch. And the same thing goes for Chris Owens at I believe the left guard spot. He can play left guard. He has the jumbling on my words here. But he has the versatility for guard and tackle, guard primarily. So again, this is another spot here where you can have a little bit of fillers, give something for Stout to work with. Mario Goodrich is another claim to that. He's a pretty good prospect for where he lands here at availability at 166. I think he was rated as a fourth round value. I think he's fourth or fifth. I believe he was fourth. It's another ACC prospect. I get it. Kayvon Wallace isn't really planning out right now. But given the context of what Sirianni was talking about and being excited with guys like Zach McPherson, Tay Gowan, Kerry Vincent, I have to go with what he's saying for now, smokescreen or not. And really it kind of hurts in the fact that only one corner was selected in this mock, but judging on what Sirianni's talking about and the situation that we're put in currently, it is what it is. Again, this is a mock, and I'm basing it on the current situation that we have with Philly. So we're in desperate need of an outside corner. Goodrich has the potential for that kind of development. He has played inside. He has played outside. There's not a single part of his game where it's elite, but he's good. He's good at everything he does. He's good at tackling. He can play man. He can play zone. He has good coverage. He has good coverage skills. Not very aggressive. Not very aggressive. At forcing turnovers at the point of attack when it comes to intercepting the football or whatnot. But that's a lot of stuff that can be cleaned up, and he offers competition to that cornerback room that Sirianni is talking up right now. I think he adds plenty of competition there, especially when we're in need of a player for the outside to hopefully in the future match with Slay, depending on what the Eagles do. And then again, 237, not much to talk about here, and just adding a filler in terms of a quarterback and Anthony Brown. And yes, I know the Eagles did use a top 30 on Matt Corral, but I'm really not all too worried about it at this point. It just doesn't make all the much sense to me in spending another second again on a quarterback where you're trying to figure out what you have in Hurts, and Hurts is doing everything that an organization would hope to see in wanting to be better at his position. So that'll do it for this mock. And yes, this one, man, it managed to carry 20 minutes, and I was hoping that that wouldn't happen, but well. there y'all go. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments on this mock. Shout out to Joe Castro once more for Philly the podcast. Make sure you guys go pay a visit to his channel, doing big things over there, big interviews, always wanting to take that next step in evolution to seeing his brand grow. And again, thank you for nominating me for a mock, and that will do it for this presentation of my latest mock. And I'm going to sign out of here. Fly Eagles fly, bleed green. You already know the deal on that. Go Birds. Stay safe, y'all. Take care of everybody. Take care of y'all selves. And I will see you next time.